Good morning, children. In class 11 English Core, we are taking the lesson The Summer of the Beautiful White Horse. And as yesterday we were talking about that how the Gadoglanian family was famous. It has special traits of trust, of honesty. They could discriminate between the right and the wrong. They would never do anything wrong at all. They could never think of taking advantage of anyone, and stealing was something that would never ever enter anybody's mind. Now we'll move ahead today. Consequently, even though I could see the horse so magnificent, even though I could smell it so lovely, even though I could hear it breathing so exciting, I couldn't believe the horse had anything to do with my cousin Murad, or with me, or with any of the other members of our family, asleep or awake, because I knew my cousin Murad couldn't have bought the horse, and if he couldn't have bought it, he must have stolen it, and I refused to believe he had stolen it. Now, if we take up from here, there were so many thoughts going on in Arum's mind, that how did Murad come to have that horse? How was he in possession of that horse? Because he is also aware that they are extremely poor. It's very difficult for them to survive. So the question of purchasing a horse by anybody in the entire tribe was not possible. So he looked at Murad on that beautiful white horse, and it was a beautiful feeling, exciting to see the horse, to smell the horse, to hear it breathing. It was all extremely exciting for him. He was elated, but at the same time, he could not believe that the horse had anything to do with my cousin Murad. That meant that it could not have been purchased by his parents or anybody in the family, or with me. That is, he's talking about that neither could it have been afforded by anybody in Murad's family or Arum's or anybody in the entire tribe. Because I knew my cousin Murad couldn't have bought the horse. So he's so sure and definite, because he is aware of the financial condition and that they are living in extreme poverty. So the question of having purchased that horse could not be possible. And if he could not have bought it, he must have stolen it. And I refuse to believe he has stolen it. What he says, that he feels that he is not prepared, that he's coming to the conclusion that he must have stolen it. Why? Because nobody had that much of money to purchase a horse. And he is not prepared to accept the fact that Murad has stolen that horse, because nobody could ever even think about stealing in their tribe. No member of the Gadoglanian family could be a thief. So he is so sure, but there are mixed feelings. There's an admixture of feelings in Arum. I stared first at my cousin and then at the horse. There was a pious stillness and humor in each of them, which on one hand delighted me and on the other hand frightened me. He says, the sight of Murad sitting on that beautiful white horse, it was wonderful. He had been invited, Arum had been invited to come and take a ride on the horse. But there is the admixture of mixed feelings, that on one hand it delighted him. He was overwhelmed with joy that finally his dream is going to come true, that he will be able to ride a horse. And on the other hand, he is frightened to accept the fact that Murad has stolen that horse. Murad, I said, where did you steal this horse? So Arum is very curious to know how and where did Murad get that horse from. Leap out of the window, he said, if you want to ride. Now Murad, he's around 13 years old, older than Arum, and he's clever and smart. He does not respond to the question put across by Arum. It was true then, he had stolen that horse. He says it was true. What was true? That he had stolen that horse. There was no question about it. That means there is no doubt, that it was certain, it was definite that he had stolen that horse. But he is not giving him an answer, or is not agreeing to the fact. He had come to invite me to ride or not as I chose. That because they are good friends, they are cousins, and therefore he is aware that Arum also is extremely fond and passionate about horses. So he came here to invite him this particular morning. Well, it seemed to me stealing a horse for a ride was not the same thing as stealing something else, such as money. What he meant to say out here was that when a thief steals money, the money is utilized by the thief in whatever way that he wishes to spend. But out here, he is giving a justification for Murad's action of having stolen the horse. In fact, he does not consider it to be stealing. Why? Because he has taken stealing a horse for a ride. That he has stolen that horse, or rather borrowed that horse, one can say. But he knows very well that it is not the same thing as stealing of money. For all I knew, maybe it wasn't stealing at all. That he says that he's not prepared to accept, he's not prepared to believe that he has stolen it. If you were crazy about horses, the way my cousin Murad and I were, it wasn't stealing. So the justification for Murad's action of having stolen that horse, he says, what does he state that? He says that it wasn't stealing. And why it was not stealing? That means he is aware. What is he aware of? That Murad and he will never sell that horse for the sake of money. So that is what he is why? Because he knows Murad extremely well. He knows his temperament, he knows his nature, and he also knows that he will never sell that horse at all. It won't become stealing until we offer to sell the horse. If they had the intention of selling that horse, getting money, and then utilizing it for themselves, then it would be considered as stealing, which of course I knew we would never do. So Murad and Aram, who are cousins, who are very friendly with each other, they know and understand each other. Rather, Aram knows Murad extremely well, and he is also aware. So the justification that he gives for the stealing is, it is not the same thing as stealing of money, because when money is stolen, it is done so to spend the money by the thief. But out here he knows that he has taken that horse, he has stolen that horse, but it is only merely for the sake of taking a ride on it, and both of them will never think of selling that horse. Let me put on some clothes, I said. Now this was an irresistible offer, something that he had dreamt of for years and years, but it had never materialized. So he gave in to this temptation and dressed up. All right, he said, but hurry. I leaped into my clothes. That means he hurriedly dressed up in order to take a ride on that horse. I jumped down to the yard from the window and leaped onto the horse behind my cousin Murad. So from the window itself, he jumped out and sat behind his cousin Murad, ready to move away from there so that people would not see them, so that nobody could watch them. That year, we lived at the edge of town on Walnut Avenue. Behind our house was a country, vineyards, orchards, irrigation ditches, and country roads. So he says that year particularly, they lived on Walnut Avenue. So they rode away towards the countryside. Why towards the countryside? Where there were orchards, there were irrigation ditches, so that nobody could see them. They did not want to be seen with that horse at all. So they rode towards the countryside. In less than 3 minutes, we were on Olive Avenue. And then the horse began to trot, take shorter steps. The air was new and lovely to breathe. It was exhilarating. It was a wonderful feeling for them and early in the morning taking a ride on the horse. The feel of the horse running was wonderful. It was something which Aram had only dreamt of, but this was reality today, and both the boys, that is Murad and Aram, were extremely happy and delighted to take this ride away from where the residential area was as they rode towards the countryside. My cousin Murad, who was considered one of the craziest members of our family, began to sing. I mean, he began to roar. That means he was not able to sing well. He could not sing in a melodious manner, and others considered him to be one of the craziest members of the family. So he says that he was so happy And because he was happy, he was overjoyed, he was elated, he was delighted, he began to sing, which was not very pleasant though, but all the same, that was his way of expressing his delight. Thank you.